And if it were illegal in the state, it'd probably be illegal in the city. Kind of a joke there. What weapons could George Washington carry under the British that we can't carry under the Americans? And the answer is pretty much fucking everything. Washington could carry a pistol without a permit. He could carry a sword. He could carry a dagger. I don't have my EDC on me today, but if I were to carry something like this on my person, a live blade, not a thunder, I would be arrested, tried, and convicted, and I could face up to 3 years. George Washington could have carried that under British rule, and if that was all he carried, they would have laughed at him. The English would have laughed at him. My saber, which is, as I said, my favorite weapon these days, is absolutely illegal to wear pretty much anywhere in America. I think you might be able to get away with it in Texas. And that's a maybe. And that's not counting city laws. But back to on the fighting arts. Most of the Eastern martial arts are complete bullshit. I have a broken jaw. I have 2 wires in my jaw. I have a collapsed cheekbone. Nose has been broken. Predominantly because most of the stuff is bullshit. There are combinations that are like block, 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 punch, groin, another groin, sweep around. It's bullshit. Okay. I said I still study the Eastern arts, and I do. There's a fun amount of Krav Maga in there. Krav Maga, depending on who you ask. I've had one Jewish teacher and a multitude of white teachers. I've had one Asian teacher in my life and a multitude of white teachers. And I'm happy for that because they whiteified the arts enough to make them functional enough that I didn't get killed. And that's really not a joke. My worst fight was in 11 or 12 on 1. I was the one. That was the collapsed cheekbone, couple of broken ribs, concussion, broken nose. Actually did not need to be hospitalized. I went to the hospital the next day and all they told me was, they set my nose and taped my ribs and told me $50,000 to have the collapsed cheekbone uncollapsed. And I didn't have $50,000, so it's still collapsed. You can kind of see this one. I run my finger along it and there's no hole. This one, I run my finger along it and there's a hole. And, that's the Eastern martial arts. As I've spent more of my time with the Western stuff, and there's a lot of it. There are a lot of Western martial arts. You have no idea. There's Ring-In, which is medieval wrestling in armor, but it also works out of armor. There's the shillelagh, which part of my fighting style is shillelagh with stick. They tend to, there's so much. It's English, Irish, German, French, Italian. The Italians have some amazing stuff when it comes to swords and fist fighting. Funny thing is, the techniques are very similar. But, and this is where things get tricky, you don't get a lot of kata or anything like it. You don't get a lot of forms or anything like it. You get taught technique and you sort of left to let that technique speak for itself. And that I happen to like. Now this is probably going kind of long, so I'm going to try to cut it a little short. But on the fighting arts, a lot of fighting arts are bullshit. Not the technique itself. I still practice some bits of Kempo. I still practice some bits of Muay Thai. I still practice some bits of Wing Chun, but what those bits are techniques that I haven't found in other places. You know, Bong Sao, I believe it's the Bong Sao. I haven't had to name it in a while, but Bong Sao, boom, you know. But if I end up using a Bong Sao in a fight, which is extremely unlikely, I'm probably going to use something a bit more Western, but should I end up using a Bong Sao in a fight, it's going to be Bong Sao to Tong Sao to jab to cross to hook. You know, I've ripped the Eastern martial arts apart over well over 40 years. I've come up with what I think is an effective fighting style based predominantly in the Western arts. Now we're going to start getting into the techniques of that fighting style. As I said, I'm going to start with some ring stuff just to get people comfortable. I have started, in fact, two of the most important videos have already been done. And that's the how to make a fist and how to, your basic fighting stance. If you don't have those two things, you're not going to learn a whole hell of a lot more. So if you don't have those two things, I would strongly suggest that you go and watch them. Now, as a precursor to this particular bit that I'm doing today, I did pre-fight, fight, and after-fight. Of the three, fight was the most watched. Pre-fight is the most important. That discusses, getting your distance. It discusses the fence, which is one of the most important Western concepts out there. Not just because it helps you to keep your distance beforehand, but from the fence you can better block circular punches. And in my experience, only trained fighters use straight punches. So about 80 to 90% of the people that you're going to be dealing with are going to be doing this shit. Rabbit punches or cartwheel punches. I've seen it all. I've bounced, I've been executive protection, bodyguard. I've been in street fights of my own, which I wouldn't wish on anyone, to be perfectly honest with you. All these broken bones and bits and pieces of metal in my body are not fun to live with. The scars, my wife kind of just gets a chuckle out of that and just says, okay, that's you. And God bless her. Pretty impressive for the rabid liberal that she is. But she loves action movies. So, she's seen me get in one fight, and I guess that was love at first fight. Or one fight as an adult anyway. 24 years, so I got to be doing something right. But back to the subject at hand. Fighting in the fighting arts. Strip away the arts part, and the techniques are gold. A sidekick is a sidekick is a sidekick as long as you chamber the fucking thing. I don't know if you can see this. A sidekick is a sidekick as long as you chamber it and you hit in the right place and et cetera, et cetera.